the forecasted amount of 1 trillion in global real estate, we're looking at 20 or 30 World Trade Centers. Real estate is a more perennial asset.
If the investors enter into a market at the right time, I think they will gain the best.
Colombo apartments, we had seen 88% absorption, and the suburb 98%, and the housing almost 99%. So this RIU data. Land appreciation had been there for last 10% year on year, and apartment value from 13 to 15%. Port City, we are expecting around 12%. Sometimes it can go up to 15%.
In a strategic location in the map, we have a weather, climate, and people are blessed with hospitality and friendly people. They look at the risk perception of the country. Factors, it is the factor itself, and it is the stability of the factor.
The industrial real estate and the logistic real estate. So the lands, they're looking to move their warehouses, their headquarters, their offices to other locations, because even with global trade routes changing, and since Sri Lanka has been in one of the main trade routes, they're looking at Sri Lanka for those purposes as well.
World's most popular, safest investment destination, which is Dubai, is now they are no longer in that position.
I mean, suddenly a system, the world which was somewhat in an equilibrium, suddenly disrupted. So everything in chaos. Every time when an equilibrium is broken, it comes and settles at another equilibrium, which is somewhat different to what it was. Even counting on superpowers, thinking they will look after. So you know what happened.
Co-founder and Group Chairman of Prime Group, and Ms. Amaya Herath, Executive Director, Homelands Group of Companies, and our moderator, Mr. Roshan, Madawela, CEO and founder of RIUNIT.
We are like the Switzerland of the region.
Understand and build trust.
Let me quickly tell you what's happening in the world. There's a capital flight from Dubai, from the Middle East.
So the animal you create here should complement the mainland, and that's super critical.
I'm not talking about stripping down all of your luxury condos and making it cheap enough for people to live in.
Rather than addressing to the high-end apartment complex where there is lot of opportunities for continuing the services, for general services.
You see, you got to give targets, you got to make people aware. So in that 10-year plan, some of the ideas that you shared are actually sterling, golden.
Ayubowan, and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted to welcome each of you, our esteemed guests, to the first session of the 10-year plan of driving growth through real estate, the high-level RIUNIT Forum on the future of Sri Lanka's real estate sector. While we welcome our audience of professionals present here in person in this premises, we would also like to warmly welcome each of you, our guests who are joining us virtually. Now, taking a moment to talk about RIUNIT, the Research Intelligence Unit, ladies and gentlemen, is a leading research firm established in 2003, committed to delivering exceptional and timely market intelligence whilst maintaining the highest standards of ethics and integrity. With offices in Colombo, London, Male and Dhaka, and operational presence across Asia, including Nepal, the Philippines and Australia, they have facilitated diverse research studies across multiple sectors throughout the region. Their expertise is particularly strong in real estate, where we have consulted on hundreds of feasibility studies for mixed developments, hotels, residential, retail and commercial warehouse projects. They provide monthly market updates on Sri Lanka's real estate market and deliver strategic market intelligence to their clients. Over the years, RIUNIT has facilitated over 700 million USD in real estate transactions, reflecting their deep impact on the region's development landscape. On the outset itself, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to say a big thank you to our valuable sponsors who have come on board to make this forum a success. Our thanks go to Colombo Port City Economic Commission, Czech Port City Colombo, International Construction Consortium, Private Limited ICC, Prime Lands and Homelands. And we also like to mention and convey our gratitude to Fitz Air and Besseler Tea as well. Now, we kindly request all the participants to fill up the questionnaire that is provided at your tables. And as this will be very much valuable to us, your feedback and your suggestions, and it will keep us connected, and that will be very much useful for RIUNIT to develop a better strategy for Sri Lanka as a whole. Now, mentioning the segments that we will be having during this conference, it would be comprising of 3 presentations from our sponsors and our partners, and we'll have a panel discussion in each segment, which is divided into 3 parts. And the first part is understanding the economic indicators that international real estate investors look for in an emerging market like Sri Lanka. And first, we have a presentation that will be conducted by Mr. Roshan Madawela, CEO and founder of RIUNIT. A round of applause as we welcome him to the lectern.
Thank you, Dilanjali. Thank you for the intro, and thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have many distinguished people and stakeholders in Sri Lanka's real estate industry. I will start off by putting you all to sleep. Not really. Okay, so I'm going to give you the context of why we are here. So, as the name suggests, it's a long-term goal, right? Yeah, the context of this effort is that according to many of the global real estate industry commentators, there is an estimated $1 trillion earmarked for real estate investment globally, right? That's a $1 trillion according to Saville specifically, which is institutional real estate investment. If you look at 2025, the emerging market share, that includes Sri Lanka and our neighbors, emerging markets, we are getting a bigger slice of global investment than before. So, I mean, most of it goes to advanced economies in Europe and America, and Japan, but emerging markets are getting a bigger slice of international real estate. And the second thing here is that real estate as a asset class preferred amongst investors is increasing and enjoying a growth spurt. There are many reasons for this. We'll try and touch on that during the expert panels. But basically, when there are times of uncertainty, you find that investors go into real estate. And it's that spot between fixed income and equities. People like to invest in real estate. So that's the global setting. And of course, you know, if you talk to fund managers, they'll tell you that real estate globally has proved itself. You look at 2008, what happened when the economic meltdown took place. Real estate did okay. It didn't, I mean, when other asset classes fell by 20-30%, real estate might have increased by 3 or 4%. So it is resilient. It's proven itself again during COVID, and currently we're at the precipice of a crisis. We are seeing a new renewed interest in real estate globally, right? Okay, so we at RIUNIT, we're doing research into what these international investors look for in an emerging country, because they make very important decisions on where to invest, right? So in our studies, we cover Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh, Nepal, Vietnam, and Philippines. For countries like Sri Lanka, we have data that goes back 20 years. For like Philippines, it's just a couple of years, a little bit longer in Maldives and Nepal and Bangladesh. Why are these findings important? Because they're useful for maybe you as investors. Some of you are here, you may invest in projects overseas, right? But also for policymakers. For policymakers, we can help to understand what magnetizes real estate investment in and how we can have policies to attract that. Just a quick look at, this is the kind of data we've been using. This is coming from one of our subscriptions that goes out to our clients. So we look at the organized real estate sector. So actually, we have to be clear when we talk about real estate investment, we are talking about the organized real estate investors. So here we're looking at apartments, gated housing, and plotted land projects, for example. So this is what we monitor on a monthly basis in our studies. And the three parameters that we look at, which are critical, is the amount of inventory we have. So how many apartments do we have in Colombo, for example, or in Male or Dhaka or Kathmandu? What is the absorption? So how many of built units are sold? This gives you an indication of how strong the demand is, right? And last but not least, price. So price increment or price decrease in the primary market will help investors to understand which direction is the market going in. Right. Here are some of the most important parameters for investors, according to our research. This is what they look at. GDP is the most important one. A country with growing GDP, a growing economy, represents a increase in the number of people who can afford real estate, right? So the demand is a direct relationship with GDP. Countries like Sri Lanka also have the diaspora, right? So the Sri Lankan diaspora is amazing. We have a high level of engagement. You don't see this in other countries or most countries. So the diaspora who earn money in foreign currency invest back into their country of origin. Tourism is another one. It's cross-fertilizing. Tourism cross-fertilizes with other sectors. The more people that visit Sri Lanka, the more foreigners tend to be interested in investing in property. It's the case in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Bali, and other places as well. Remittances drives the affordable market. It's a very strong indicator. The more money that comes in from migrant workers, the more the demand is for affordable land and housing. I'll run through this. Infrastructure is obvious. You know, you have great infrastructure, more people want to live here or any country. Industrialization is an interesting one because industrialization, country that industrialization extends a certain stability to the market. Countries like, if we were, we're an example, we depend too much on tourism, so every time there's the global economy sneezes, we catch influenza, right? So if we were industrialized like Vietnam, we would be much more resilient to withstand international shocks. Sentiments are very important. This is like, it's hard to be scientific with sentiments because we don't know how people form them, but I think it's a mix of governance, future expectations, and so forth. Demographics, critical. I think you guys know that people, if you've got a population in that has a lot of people in that range who buy houses, then it's a good sign for a market. Institutional factors is something that the developed world particularly looks at when they look at the developing world. They say, okay, you've got to have laws, you've got to have property rights, you've got to have less corruption, you've got to have transparency. So that is also very important for international investors. Risk. Unfortunately, you know, we're seeing how war affects international real estate investment. That's happening right now. So this is something which we didn't really factor in, but we have to now factor it in. The fact that international geopolitics can have an impact on real estate investment. And finally, zones and sub-markets. So here in Sri Lanka, Port City is a great example. So Port City alone might put Sri Lanka on the map of an international investor because of the opportunity, the concessions, tax holidays, so forth. So where do we stand? This is a work in progress. Please don't quote us on it. We are working on these. And Sri Lanka here, you can see we score highly on diaspora, tourism, remittances. We're a little bit weak on infrastructure, industrialization. Sentiments vary, but unfortunately, we are also a little bit at risk with what happens in the global economy, and that we see all the time. Institutionally, I think things are improving. They could be much better, but we feel the sub-market opportunity, especially with the port city, puts us back on the map. Where do our competitors stand? So Bangladesh is somewhat the opposite. They have better infrastructure in some areas, but the diaspora doesn't really engage. Remittances play a role. I won't go through the whole thing. And sorry, this was not Bangladesh, this was the Maldives. Apologies, yeah, the tourism is very strong. Bangladesh, again, remittance is very strong, and they are quite industrialized, but their diaspora doesn't engage, and they don't really have tourists. So it's a different set of variables. Nepal, again, they have huge numbers of people working abroad, sending money back to Nepal, but their infrastructure is quite weak, and the institutional situation isn't great. So I'll just flick through these for now. Philippines is one of the strongest based on the fact that they have great diaspora, their tourism, they have massive amounts of remittance coming in, their infrastructure is pretty good, and they generally have a decent reputation for laws and property rights and regulations. Vietnam, somewhere where they're quite industrialized, they have pretty great infrastructure, and you can see today if you go to Vietnam, their property market is doing very well. In fact, they talk about bubbles because it's been rising continuously for such a long time. Finally, just want to wrap up on a few points. Real estate has proved itself as a great investment in an asset class. It's always been there, and in the current time, it's just reproving itself as a good bet. What we'd like to do today is, since we have many people here from the industry, that is great to see the stakeholders, to try to arrive at, even from the private sector point of view, a policy where we can set the field and bowl to it in a way that will synergize other sectors between, say, tourism and real estate and other sectors of real estate. If we just secure 1% of the forecasted amount of 1 trillion in global real estate, we're looking at 20 or 30 World Trade Centers, right? So that's quite a significant achievement if we can target that. A final point is that real estate is not industrialization. It doesn't give us perfect stability, but it is an asset. Once a foreign investor comes and builds a building here, no one can take it away, right? So that will stay. Even in a worst case, if you have to use it for other purpose, the asset is here. So it's not like the garment industry, you know, where footloose investment used to come in here, then next year they're in Bangladesh and Vietnam, and countries lose and gain very quickly. No, real estate is a more perennial asset, so it has a value, but let's be clear, we can't measure the country and how good we are by the height of our skyscrapers, which is why our third session is dedicated to how we can make Sri Lankan housing more affordable, have more social housing, more mid-income housing, and have a more integrated strategy that can be driven by high-end for sure, but the benefits should be there for the people of a country. All right, that's it from me. Good thing that everyone hasn't fallen asleep. Thank you for listening. I'll pass it back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roshan Madawela, CEO and founder of RIUNIT. We request you to remain on stage as you will be the moderator for the next panel discussion that we are going to join in. And once again, invite you to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, our moderator for the panel discussion, Mr. Roshan Madawela, CEO and founder of RIUNIT. And our panelists are Nama Peris, Managing Director ICC, Premlal Brahmanage, Co-founder and Group Chairman of Prime Groups, Amaya Herath, Executive Director, Homelands Group of Companies. May we please have a round of applause as we welcome our panelists. And I hand over the control to Mr. Roshan Madawela, our moderator.
Sticking with the idea that estimated $1 trillion of real estate internationally is flying around this year, give or take $1 billion perhaps. What do you, you all represent the leading developers in Sri Lanka. So from your point of view, what do you think foreign investors into real estate would look at before they decide to invest in Sri Lanka? Can I start with Amaya?
Yes, Roshan. So I think when you talk about the international investors, it's very important to see what they're looking for in an emerging market. I think they're looking for a balance between stability and the opportunity. So they want to enter into a market that is safe and which has a growth potential. And Sri Lanka is exactly the same, I guess. And they also look for factors like the economic growth of the country. When you take Sri Lanka, the numbers have proven how strong the economy is after the whole bad time we went through. And also, like, the GDP grew, the tourism had a recorded year last year, and then we had, the inflation came down. So with all that, I think we had a good economy. And another thing they look for is urbanization. In Sri Lanka, urbanization is a bit low, it's at 19%, but I think it's steadily growing. And also they look for, there are some deal-breaking questions they look for, like whether they can enter into an emerging market easily, whether they can move in and out their money freely, and whether their investments are safe. So these are the things they look for in an emerging market. Also, one of the key things, also obviously the value for the money they invest, they look for that as well. If you take Colombo, Sri Lanka, if you take a premium property, ultra luxury property, it's about 3,500 to 4,500 USD per square meter. So if you compare the same property with the same standard in another country, like let's say Dubai, Singapore, it would be 3 to 5 times when we compare it with the Sri Lankan market. So that itself says how good is Sri Lanka as an emerging market. And also the capital appreciation, it's about, I think it grew over 50% between 2018 to 2024. Yes. So the numbers speak for themselves. And one of the most important thing I would say is the delivery. So these investors, they look for the delivery because they have been investing in all countries. So Sri Lanka is just another place for them. So they always do their homework. So that's where I think Homelands comes in, because we have been delivering, we have delivered 3,500 units within the time and the standard quality, with the standard qualities, and the deeds been handed over as well. So the investors, they don't just hand you money and then wait and watch. They want construction progress, they want accountability, transparency. So these are the things they look for. And so for them, delivery is very important, because if they know that if the delivery is, if it's getting late, that it's going to eat the capital appreciation directly. So we always put our clients first, and that's why we give them the benefit all the time, so that they can get their capital appreciation and the passive income by delivering it on time. So these are, when we make projects, when we do developments, we think about all these. These are few of the important factors they look in an emerging market. So I think if the investors enter into a market at the right time, I think they will gain the best.
Thank you, Maya. Yes, very comprehensive answer. I'll come back to you on this, but for now, can we hear from Mr. Premlal? What's your experience in this area?
Yeah, some of the factors what Amaya has told also is that's correct. And further, if we are looking at further deep into that, one is the country rating. That is very, for a foreign investor, they first go in for a country rating. Now from default stated, now we have got the rating of triple C plus in October 25 by the Fitch, and then also S&P Global, again triple C plus, and Modi, then again CAA1 with a stable outlook. So that looks very good for a country like us from default situation to come into that. Even triple C plus is not really a investment category, but we are improving and we are showing the resilient and our growth potential. So with that, I think country rating is good. And then the macroeconomic recovery and the stability from the default position, we had come to from 80%, 70% inflation to now we have come down to 2.2, and now with the present the geopolitical situation, now we had gone up to nearly 5%, and also inflation is controlled, and the exchange rate stability has been there, and little bit these days volatile due to the other factors, but so far it's good. And the GDP growth is 5% last year, and this year we might, because of then again, because of the war, we might be something like 3.2%. And then the currency risk, we have been, it was good, and then again recently, then again we had seen some volatility in the currency. And there's another one what you have mentioned is the absorption rate. Even you have shown in there. In Colombo apartments we had seen 88% absorption, and the suburb 98%, and the housing almost 99%. So this RIU data, that's very good, and people look whether there are unfinished finished products that are available with unsold, but here absorption rate is very high. And another very important thing is the capital repatriation. People first see whether my money is safe, and the second thing is whether I could take my money back. So here, if you bring your capital through proper way with IIA accounts and so on, so that repatriation is guaranteed, which is that way Sri Lanka is in a good stand. And even the port city, you can bring here and take money without any questions together with the profit or capital appreciation after payment of the taxes. Then the property valuations, of course, overall land appreciation had been there for last 10% year on year, and apartment value from 13 to 15%. And when it's come to prime, of course, our products are much appreciation than the normal rate, which is over 20, 25, 30%. And then again, rental yield, normally in Colombo you see 6 to 8%, and beachfront, of course, very good, and 15%, and Port City, we are expecting around 12%, sometimes it can go up to 15%. Then again, we have introduced the country, Sri Lanka has introduced for investment, the visas, investor visas. So US dollar to about 2,000, you get 10%, which is very good. 10-year visa, like golden visa, what is in Dubai, and about 100,000 investments, you get 5 years. So this then come into a remittance through a BPFC account, and then you are entitled for that one. Only sad part is that we are not really advertising. I think very few of even this audience may know about this, because as a country we are not advertising, even though those legislations are there. Then the demographics are there. Demand for condominium has grown last year, according to the central bank reports, 108%, which is very good for the condominium. And the security, we have clean environment, affordable living, very good climate. Those are real plus factors for Sri Lanka. And also, as Roshan mentioned, market transparency, whether you have your products are there and whether it's built and whether you can take money, and also ease of doing business. As a country, of course, we'll have to improve on that, ease of doing business. These are the main factors that Sri Lanka in a very competitive, compelling opportunity driven by the strategic location and the fact that the Gulf War, the Dubai, of course, people are moving from Dubai, so we have a real opportunity in this case, and we can become a next real estate hotspot in the global arena.
Thank you, Mr. Ron. We're actually going to touch on your last point in this session, but you mentioned something really important, which was about marketing and promoting the country, which is probably lacking. If you go to places like Thailand, in tourist areas at the mall, people try to sell you real estate, right? So I don't think Sri Lanka is there, even here or abroad. Can I ask the same question from Mr. Namal?
Yeah, thank you, Roshan. So I think when you look and deep go into basics, investor invests with the view of getting a return. So if the possibility of getting a return and the size of the return you are going to get compared to the other destinations you have, you make the decision, right? So it is the return, and always returns are connected with risks. So it is the risk and return. So if you take Sri Lanka real estate, I think we are blessed with a lot of positive things, and we are located in a strategic location in the map, and we have a weather, good climate, and our people are blessed with hospitality and friendly people, and therefore the product wise we can do very good products compared to our competition in the neighborhood. But when it comes to risks, only we are a little bit in a disadvantage. When investors look for investment, they look at the risk perception of the country. Now we are, as Premalal told, I mean, our rating is a issue. I mean, we have to take it up by 1 or 2 notches, because no investor would make up his mind to invest in a country which was in bad shape a year or 2 ago. So that is one factor we have to look at, credit ratings, and we are still in dialogue with IMF. So people are watching how far we can go, how successful we would be. So that again is a factor which will affect our investors' sentiments. So all those things will matter, how the investors will look at Sri Lanka. Then there again, Roshan was talking about macroeconomic factors. I think when you take macroeconomic factors, it is the factor itself and it is the stability of the factor. So always when you make the investment decision, you forecast for the future. So if the stability is there, your forecast will be easy and forecast will be accurate. So what we have to look at is, are our macro factors have come to a stable situation? Inflation, interest rates, I think in the recent past they are more or less stable, and the GDP growth, I think we have to, by 2027 we have to reach 5%, and with this, I mean, we are talking about this predictability in a world context where there's nothing is predictable. So that is what the challenge is with us. Even the exchange rate pressure again will burden us a lot. So we have to look at those things, and political stability, then the debt sustainability. We still have to create confidence that the investment, the returns can be delivered. So, and another important thing is the investors very frequently talk about the ease of doing business. That is a very critical area. Maybe 3-4 years ago, many investors came in when the going was good, but they turned back because ease of doing business was very poor in Sri Lanka. Now we are trying to get those areas straightened up and make them better. I think it is in our hands because things are prospective. We have been blessed a lot by the nature, so we have to take the advantage and make ourselves corrected, put on the correct track and move forward. Then the real estate in Sri Lanka would be very, very attractive.
Thank you, Mr. Mal. Very comprehensive. It's actually interesting you say on the one hand, our economy might be forecast to slow, but then the whole world's economies are now slowing down, right? Because the IMF has forecasted a dip in global economic growth for this year. They might revise it, might even revise it down further. So competitively, we can perhaps still hold that position, right? So moving on to that, start with Amoy, how can we see if Sri Lanka can benefit? Well, I don't like to use the word benefit because if someone else is suffering from a geopolitical crisis, but the inevitability is it will go somewhere, right? Just like when Sri Lanka had problems, tourists went to the Maldives. It's just there. So if it is the case, and it seems to be that Dubai is not going to get the share of real estate that it may have been earmarked, do you think Sri Lanka can secure a greater share of both project investment but also end user as well, like a place to live? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, like you said, Roshan, with these geopolitical shifts that are happening in the world, it's creating a new demand for the Sri Lankan real estate market, especially if you take the investors who are looking at countries like UAE. They are considering desperately to look at alternative locations in Asia, especially the Asian region. So Sri Lanka comes in to play in that sense. And like I said, there are new demands creating in the market. For example, there is a rise in the remote work and lifestyle migration in the world right now. So it has created a demand for service apartments and co-living spaces. So also there is another area of opportunity that has been created because of these changes. I think the industrial real estate and the logistic real estate. So the lands, they're looking for to move their warehouses, their headquarters, their offices to other locations, because even with global trade routes changing, and since Sri Lanka has been in one of the main trade routes, they are looking at Sri Lanka for those purposes as well. And lands near like ports, airports, highways, these are gaining a lot of demand because of this. Also, another important segment of this market is the high net worth individuals, which are looking at a second home, which is more safe, a safer place. So Sri Lanka comes in there as well, because with that, there's a huge demand that has created for beachfront villas, gated communities, and luxury apartments with all the amenities. So we saw this coming. I think as a country we saw this coming, because we always knew that Sri Lanka was it was going to be the next real estate hub, with its strategic location, the low emerging market status, and also the growth potential. So at Homelands, we also saw that coming. So that's why we brought this concept of resort style living to the country. And we have different types for every type of investor, types of projects. So for example, beachfront, lagoon front, waterfront, for the tourism demand. And then we have, if you're looking for residential, high residential areas, we've got Pentara, Watdale in the high residential areas in the heart of Colombo. So likewise, we have variety for every type of investors. And with these new demands creating, I think it has opened up a new opportunity for Sri Lanka. Rather than a risk, I would see this geopolitical changes as a good opportunity and an opening for our country to change the real estate market here.
You've actually hit something really important, because when we talked about how we can synergize with other sectors, I read a report today that our shipping and logistics and bunkering have done really well because of what's happening. So when that is the case, then you see more demand for warehouse types of real estate as well, which you can capitalize on, right? Brilliant, yes. Can I ask the same question from Mr. Prema?
Yeah, with this geopolitical situation, of course, pluses and minuses as we mitigate whatever the risk that is coming from shocks like increasing fuel and thereby increasing the cost of production, cost of construction, and so forth, and potential reduction of remittances and so on. There's a plus point where we can really look into that because the safe investment, one of the world's most popular, safest investment destination, which is Dubai, is now they are no longer in that position, and as a result, there are some migration happening from the shifting their investment, especially the real estate investment, from to other countries, and as a result, Sri Lanka is also in a very good position for them to attract. Now, who are the people who have been investing in Dubai? Is mainly the very rich Indians, Pakistanis, and then Russians, Ukrainians, and Europeans, and so on. So if we really grab this opportunity, we can really do well in terms of the real estate as a real estate destination, value for money destination, where with the climatic conditions and relatively good infrastructure and very good climatic condition and relatively good cleanliness, we should be able to address. But as a country, we will have to go together. Now, as an individual property developers, we go to the different countries, and we first promote Sri Lanka. Then only we promote our products. But as a country, we are not really doing that, and we can really export real estate to the world, and this is a very good opportunity, and we will have to have the infrastructures like now we have got after going behind and got this investor visa, 10-year visa and so on, but we will have to really grab that, and for that, of course, we should have world-class real estate. We prime land, and even most of the good real property developers, we have world-class real estate and very good properties, and we develop lifestyle concepts. We develop one of the most innovative real estate concepts. Some of our products, which even foreigners comes, they are really amazed. They are really they commented. So we should be in a position to promote those products and develop. So as a country, we can do that, and if we really address this is a very good opportunity. And now, as your diagram shows, most of those real estate from Dubai has gone to those countries where you had shown Philippines. So Philippines, they had gone. Then Kuala Lumpur, KL, they had gone. Thailand, they had gone. Still, we get increasing number of inquiries and sales, but that's not enough. We can really capitalize on this, and for that, if we have a very good approach to a cohesive approach, we can really win this entire thing. And now, you don't have to really go very far. You can look at India. And there are about over 200-300 million very rich Indian millionaires are there, dollar millionaires are there. If we can get a small fraction of them, so here all the products are not enough. We can even build even 3-4 times than that what we are doing. So we'll have to have that sort of bigger vision. And if we approach, of course, we can really export real estate. And as you mentioned in the sense that when they come, they will not take back their whatever they built or whatever they have taken. It's in Sri Lanka, asset is in Sri Lanka. So that is the beauty of the real estate. So they can't take it away. So they will come here, they will stay here, they will spend here. And I met today in the morning a good investor. He's saying, together with, even I have not imagined, I would like to invest because I like here food, F&B here. So because of that, they would like to, some people like to invest here. Like that, we'll have to have the other infrastructure, and the tourism also is booming, and from that, we can really have a synergy for our products.
Absolutely, yeah. So to leverage what we are blessed with and monetize it for the product, right? Excellent. Salamal, your thoughts, please?
Yeah, Roshan, now this issue or the present context, I would like to look at, break it into two, short term and long term. In short term, as Mr. Premalal said, it is chaos. Suddenly a system, the world which was somewhat in an equilibrium, suddenly disrupted. So everything in chaos. The fuel prices went up by 41%, 42%, material prices went up, the logistic costs went up. So right now we are at a very disadvantageous situation, how to get the act together and how to face these current realities and a dilemma where we don't know whether it will be okay tomorrow or day after. We were basically seeing some sort of calm time, again something happens. So that is the short term. So there we have to stay strong and grow through the difficult period. When it comes to long term, every time when a equilibrium is broken, it comes and settles at another equilibrium, which is somewhat different to what it was. Even in COVID, that is what happened. We got into a situation which is called new normal. So here again, what we can expect is a new normal after these things happen. So how would this new normal be? I think there are few lessons we can learn. Now, if we look at what has been happening in Middle East, some people were counting on superpowers, thinking they will look after. So you know what happened. So being non-aligned seems to be the best path to move in, and rightly our government has selected to be non-aligned. So that is a very good plus point in this new normal. Then the second one, our strategic location in the map. We are centrally located, no parties which are fighting with each other in the neighborhood. So our destination is good. Compared to the current context, we are somewhat safer condition. And another thing will happen is this supply chains will change. Whoever who depend on single source got into trouble. Whoever who had multiple sources survived to a certain extent. So in the new normal or in the future, everyone will look for alternatives, multiple sourcing locations. And incidentally, because of that, there will be some niches which will get created. I think we have a big advantage being a niche for high-tech manufacturing. We have can create for niches in BPO, the IT sector, and you are not expected to be the main source, but you are expected to be a second source. So Sri Lanka can take advantage of that situation, the supply chain, the non-aligned policy, and our strategic location. And I think we Sri Lanka have been going through a series of these disruptions. I think in my lifetime, every 2 to 3 years, we have been having some disruption, either locally or globally. So we are now very resilient. We have got used to all this. So we have that strength as well. And we have gone through these difficult periods. And we have improved our production capacities. And now we don't just build real estate. We make real estate for the purpose it is intended for. Now when we do apartments, we put people first. I mean, we look at what people want from a living space, whether they get the ventilation requirement, whether they get the sunlight requirement, whether they get space to mingle with each other, their social fabric can be kept intact, whether condensations will be there when one guy has put their AC to the lowest temperature and the other guy is not using AC. So we are looking at all these aspects because apartment is your life and your lifestyle. So I think the Sri Lanka has come up to that level and we have been blessed with many things. So we are well positioned to take the advantage of this new normal which is going to happen once these things settle. So, but we are a bit poor in execution, so we have to get adjusted. We must have our policies right, our laws and the way we work, all that got to be improved to face this new context which we are going to get very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Namayan. I honestly couldn't agree with you more on the need to be non-aligned. Absolutely. So in the interest of time, I'd like to open the discussion out to the audience. We've got an amazingly learned audience here to ask any questions from the panelists or share your thoughts. There should be some mics going around, right? So just put your hand up and we can, gentleman over there, please. Can we get a mic there? Thank you.
Thank you very much for an interesting presentation. I'm Dulindra from Ceylon Asset Management. I think it was Maya who mentioned two great ideas, business relocation and logistics relocation, which are both institutional. Do you think, is there anyone who is doing promotion for those two areas besides apartments? And I'm wondering if you're missing an opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Surendra. That's a brilliant question, and just maybe offer it to Amaya. Yeah.
So, like I said, it's a new, I think it's more of a new area that has been created for the real estate. That's another segment in, apart from residential, it's, like I said earlier, the lands closer to airports, highways, ports. These are the lands that are getting more demand with this. Apart from mainly in Sri Lanka, it's the residential real estate that has been creating, and all the developers, all of us, we have focused mainly on that part. But I think with the geopolitical changes, with these new demands coming in by shaping up this industry, we can actually look at that area as well, all of us. And there will be new developments coming in related to those real estate markets as well, with the demand coming into the real estate market, I guess.
The promotions is important in the world market to the focused investors, not all the investors. We have to bring a right investors. Now, now there is a one part from the government to the other part from the private sectors. So your people are representing from the private sectors who are developing real estate. So is there any organized way of promotional strategies or a group of people who are really working on kind of strategies to promote our products in the world market?
That's a very pertinent question. Who would you like to ask that from? Anyone particular?
In the government level, still we haven't seen, but private level, from the individual level, while we are promoting, I could remember one very recently at Sydney. There, of course, all the Sri Lankan developers were presented there, and then they have been promoting their products there. That's also private individuals, the Sri Lankan real estate company. They're promoting all the real estate developers, even ICC, Homeland, we, and then other people were there, John Keels. So they were promoting our products there. That's a good point. We as a whole, if we can go out and promote, then it will be good for the country, and it's always better to go together and promote.
And one more thing to add, just for 2 minutes. I met you in 2006 in Dubai as well, when you came for promotions. Now in Dubai, what they have an application, they have a software where the investor can trace or track the investment or the property prices. Say for example here, the prices are like hidden. For example, in same flat, the prices are decided by the buyer. You sell the product to a buyer, and the buyer decides the price. So the first floor, the second floor, third floor, the price vary, depends on the the locations or the appearance of the flat. But in Dubai, I think I'm actually working with few investors there. I have invested few amounts in apartment. What they are doing, suppose if I'm going to buy a flat, a 1-bedroom apartment, and I know exactly what that flat was in the last year, the price, and what percentage has increased for this year. So the commission, say if it is 2% commission, the commission goes to the real estate company. The buyer knows, the next buyers, they know what price has been increasing. So that the investors are so confident that how the price is going to increase or decrease. So there is no bubbles, So bubbles is very dangerous because as an investors, when there is a bubbles in the market, for example, say in Dubai, to some extent, there is a bubbles. So when the bubbles burst, because when Ukrainian, Russians, the black money holders comes and invest, the price suddenly goes up. And when it comes to mature stage, then suddenly these investors sell out the product, and the middle class investors, they buy the property. Then after that, they are not able to sell it. So what our property, we have to focus also, we should not create a bubbles, but we have to have a system where that the investors see the price movements. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's correct. Prices, of course, individual level prices are there, but not the organization. The organized level, that's there. They have their apps and they have regulations. That's what in real estate, Dubai is at a very advanced level. So we will have to come to that. That's where even Roshan was saying, even the transparencies of doing business, all that has to come in there.
Why my question is, then only we can attract more investors.
Yes.
Okay, not because of that, the wrong, I think it's not a complete predictions that you can't expect the Dubai invest to come, because why? People who have already invested, first they have to sell those products to come here. Otherwise, you have to target the new investors. New investors, we don't know who are they. So if you want to bring the existing investors who are already invested on the property, first they have to sell it. There is no buyers, then there will be a problem. So if we wanted to really build such a investment opportunity, then we have to have a strong technology, transparency, resilient, everything. That's
Absolutely,
the point.
yeah. I think you hit a point. I think we were at we were in Singapore a few years ago with some of the people here at a real estate conference, and someone described Sri Lanka as a cheap paradise, and everyone got really mad. So we need to make paradise more expensive. Being told to wind up, is there time for a very quick question from anyone? Any more? From anyone, member of the panel? Okay, brilliant, we're on time then. So, thank you very much to my distinguished panel. Been amazing. Thank you for your valuable contribution. I hope it's an ongoing process. It's a long journey, so let's take steps, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, may we request the moderator and our panelists to remain for a moment as we wish to convey our gratitude by presenting a token of appreciation, and to do the honors, I respectfully invite Mr. Nilesh De Silva, Chartered Architect and Managing Partner, Kahawita De Silva and Associates Private Limited. And we request for a moment just to bear with us as we wish to convey our gratitude. Yes. Mr. Namal Piris, Managing Director, ICC, Mr. Premalal Brahmanage, Co-founder and Group Chairman of Prime Group, and Ms. Amaya Herath, Executive Director, Homelands Group of Companies, and our moderator, Mr. Roshan Madawela, CEO and founder of RIUNIT. A round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. How can we attract a share of $1 trillion USD global real estate investment? This is what we're going to be focusing on next. And prior to that, we have a presentation that will be conducted by Ms. Dhanya Gunawardena, Head of Branding and Communications, Colombo Port City Economic Commission. A round of applause as we welcome her.
Thank you for inviting me, first of all. We need to make Sri Lanka more expensive. I think we need to make Sri Lanka more exclusive. I'm born and bred Sri Lankan, and there's so much of unique selling propositions Sri Lanka has as a real estate destination, right? We see homelands, we see prime lands, we see ICC. You know, you drive from one end of the highway or from north to south, east to west, you see how beautiful Sri Lanka is and what it encompasses, not just for our tourists, but investors alike, right? So Colombo Port City brings that into real sharp focus. What can we offer to make Sri Lanka expensive, but I say exclusive, right? Bringing our beautiful beaches to the city, bringing our high net worth tourism, a marina to the city, right? We don't have, and I heard, I think Mr. Premalal say, we need to be more like a Dubai or a Singapore, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that is a competitor in a sense, but we don't want to be a Dubai. We want to have the benefits, the ecosystem that Dubai provides to investors, but we also want to stay uniquely Sri Lankan in what we offer in terms of our lifestyle, in terms of our culture, in terms of our heritage. So unlike Singapore and Dubai, they would travel outside the country to enjoy a holiday, cultural, etc. In Sri Lanka, within 1 to 3 hours, you can get national parks, you can get mountains, you can get waterfalls, you can get different types of beaches, right? So the unique selling proposition of Colombo Port City is Sri Lanka. So driving growth is what we are trying to achieve through this project. We talked about governance, I think the panel before, the main thing is about governance, policy clarity, stability. That's one of the key things, right? So what, again, Colombo Port City, the commission, what it brings to focus through our regulations is exactly that. The regulations we put in place is for clarity, is structured, a benchmarking system, not just for the government, but also for investors to see how they need to come in, why they need to come in, and what benefits they entail, right? In the same way, the ease of doing business. Single window facilitation is what the commission also provides, and not just as the commission team in providing. I see ICC in front of us, they know. Of course, there will be some challenges. We're also learning as we go. It's the first time this special economic zone of such is in Sri Lanka, so we are learning as we go. So we look to our stakeholders to come back with feedback to us to see how we can improve. So the regulations we provide is also to facilitate creating a business enabling environment for our investors. So if you look at whether it's the retail businesses, you see the mall outside, when you drive through, you see retail, you see duty free. So you look at the whole city. Excuse me, can we go to slide 5, slide 5? So give some context, so you can focus on the visual and not just my voice and my face. Slide 5. So if you look at this city, it's not just a business hub. We're looking at a regional hub. If you look at the spin wheel up here, we're looking at a 51% residential space. So from the 269 hectares that we have here, 51% of this land mass space is for residential and living. So what is Sri Lanka known for? Tourism, residential. That's what we're trying to enhance. Sri Lanka's tourism footprint, right? For businesses, we have 24%, right? And we can see some of the business centers that are up. When you drove past towards the sales gallery, you would have seen some, smaller height buildings, A, B, C, D, etc. So that's just one part of the business sector. But what I like to show through this is this is not going to be just people I think misunderstood or just misconstrued that this is going to be a financial hub. No, we're looking at a regional hub focused on residential, focusing on office spaces, focusing on retail, hospitality, cultural, healthcare. It's a fully fledged city. In the months to come, you'll see we'll be launching an RFP for the social infrastructure projects for an internationally recognized hospital, school, and university. The marina development is coming up. That's one of the first projects we broke ground on. Afterwards, we broke ground on the ICC, the residential apartment complex, and we're looking to see more residential complexes come up, right? So we are building a city, a fully fledged city, so where tourists, investors, Sri Lankans, everybody can enjoy. Some people ask, so who can enter this city? Is it gated? No, it's not a gated community, right? It's open to all, everyone who wants to enjoy it, from the public beaches, from the retail and the spaces. That's all there for you to enjoy.
Sri Lanka, a canvas of contrast, where ancient whispers converge with the visions of tomorrow. Sri Lanka's strategic location fortifies its legacy as a pivotal hub of connectivity, with the bustling port of Colombo ranked first in South Asia, serving as a testament to a nation's logistical prowess. This provides preferential market access from Europe to Asia, cementing Sri Lanka's role as a key player in global commerce. Colombo's Skyline, bridging eras, ushers in an age of innovation, symbolizing a transition to a dynamic future. Introducing Port City Colombo, a world-class master-planned city development built as an international multi-services special economic zone, financial center and business hub. Port City Colombo, a financially ring-fenced city, is the center of commerce and innovation, where the Colombo Port City Economic Commission serves as a single-window investment facilitator, streamlining investment processes. An international regulatory framework ensures compliance with the highest global standards, offering the freedom to transact without foreign exchange controls, minimizing risk and hedging costs. The city includes a robust investment protection, fostering confidence. Green Channel visas, valid for up to 10 years for investors, their spouses and children, facilitate easy entry, fostering a diverse and innovative community. Port City Colombo is ready for vertical development, with its complete infrastructure, including strategically placed substations and a comprehensive utility network, ensuring reliable power and essential services across the entire city. Its groundwork supports residential and commercial projects, offering a solid base for high-rise and mixed-use buildings and complexes. Efficient administrative services and an international commercial dispute resolution center ensure swift, fair business resolutions. Employees in Port City Colombo benefit from remuneration in foreign currency. Businesses of strategic importance enjoy unmatched incentives, where primary BSIs can unlock an unparalleled incentive package of up to 23 years, linked to the scale of investment and employment generated, featuring no corporate income tax or border tariffs, whilst secondary BSIs benefit from a competitive 7.5% concessionary corporate income tax rate for 4 years, also free from border tariffs. Port City Colombo redefines urban living with its master-planned cityscape designed for comfort and luxury. Exclusive villas, a yacht marina, the Colombo International Financial Center, an integrated resort and a convention and exhibition center, and a pioneering duty-free retail offering complement luxurious apartments and green spaces, offering a blend of sophistication and peaceful tranquility. The city includes top-tier education and healthcare, alongside the entertainment. ESG principles are central to this special economic zone, ensuring a legacy of environmental and social responsibility. Port City Colombo is sculpting a landmark of regional significance and global appeal. It's where ambition and opportunity converge to forge a realm of infinite economic potential. heralding a new era with a singular vision. Invest in Port City, Colombo.
Well, I hope most of you all have seen this video before coming here today. So thank you once again for being patient for the video to play. So before I commence, I would like to maybe put a few questions out there to you all, because I know Revan, our Director General, won't be there at the panel session because I just had a chat with Roshan. And I won't be able to stay much longer afterwards because I'd head back to office to manage some work. So I would like a few questions, if you don't mind, just to kind of change this presentation, maybe 1 or 2 questions that I can maybe answer through my closure of the project, because I would like to not kind of, make it boring. I want to make it a little bit more interesting, maybe to reduce the need of coffee and maybe alcohol afterwards. Any questions? Every question is a good question, especially the elephant in the room questions.
Sorry, Dhanya, we were talking about renewed interest in the port city. Can you just give us some examples of why a couple of sales have gone through and what has resulted in this increasing investor confidence and some of the safeguards you have introduced after having chats with numerous stakeholders? What has changed in the last few years?
Thank you for giving it straight to my face, Romali, and having our little private chat come into play. But I think from the panel before, from ICC, they'll be the best. I always believe your customers speak best about the brand. They know the challenges they face in setting up in single window, but they also understand the Sri Lankan context in terms of being a single window, working with the different authorities to cut out that red tape, which we are really trying to streamline and digitalize. We are digitalized at the Commission, but when we work with certain authorities, we have to assist them in that process, so we have to be patient and resilient. And lots of people ask, like you said, what are the numbers? We don't see much buildings, but I wish I had a picture to show. Apologies on that. I should have had a photograph to show you all, since this is the project that I work for. If you look at a picture 5 years ago, right, you would only see a bridge and some pavements, people walking, jogging on the beach, 1 or 2 things on the beach area, right? Fast forward to today. You drive through, there's a mall, there's a 2 duty-free operators, retail spaces, restaurants, you see business centers coming up. If you look at the public register on our website, we have over 140 companies. We have recently 69 businesses of strategic importance recently approved by Cabinet. And this all happened in the last year, from 2024 onwards. Right? So what I would say different is, why did it take 5 years? I mean, we know the story, right? Sri Lanka has been, unfortunately, I call it a curse. We just came through 30 years of war, bang, Easter bomb. I remember that day, all too well. Then comes COVID, then comes economic crisis. I was like, what when comes Ditwa? We're just recovering and we're just getting our oxygen again, and then we're pulled down. From the construction industry, supply chain, if you name it, everybody went through such a tough time. So similarly, Colombo Port City was, in the midst of that. We just launched the most pivotal project for Sri Lanka to spur in foreign direct investment, and here we go. We're in an IMF program. Our rating is below. When did we get our rating up? Last year. I mean, y'all are no stranger to these numbers and data, so I'm not going to spew this out like I'm an economist. I'm not. I am just, passionate about this country and passionate about the project. So you all know the hard facts and truths much more. So the real progress was actually getting the regulations out there, not just out there in a way that we would have a competitive edge, at least somewhat of a competitive edge to countries like Singapore and etc. But we're not trying to be them. We're trying to be a supplement to them, a supplement to India's gift city, to Labuan, to Dubai, to Macau, any of these places that are looking to have a supplementary location. Because Sri Lanka is the most livable city. You can do neutrality. When we talk, especially our chairman talks, we know that we are like the Switzerland of the region, right? Look at our double taxation treaties. We have them because we can do business with these countries. Look at our bilateral treaties. Look at when countries come together, even Ditwa. I know even India and Pakistan came together and location to help us. So we are a safe and neutral. And how do our policies strengthen that? In the recent, as you asked, recently we have strengthened it further in terms of, like I said, the more structured benchmarking system with the the new incentive scheme. We had a first mover advantage, and now we have evolved into that, into a new incentive is more structured. So we have for the primary developers that come in, we have in the implementation project period or the development, and then during operational stage. We've broken down the incentive periods or the tax benefits during that. So it's very transparent, very, very cohesive to understand, and we work with IMF closely to ensure that the national interest is preserved while maintaining it, because we still have to be that. Because we are a national project, the land is owned by the government, the project is owned by the government, all leases are signed with us. So weight is upon us to preserve national interest while making sure the project is succeeding and successful, not just for the country, but for the investors' sustainability. Right, so the last year, like I said, 69 business of strategic importance just this year has been approved by Cabinet versus 24 which we had prior. I hope that answered your question in a sense. Yeah, so secondary businesses are just businesses set up. So not land investors or land operators or developers. Those are businesses like IFS who have had on KPMG, Cogen, from IT, BPO, trading, professional services who set up. So we have a number of them as well coming up. Out of the 69, 68 are what Cabinet approved. Just one is for the primary side. So that's a huge progress from having taken 24 that happened over across 2 years, while we got 69 in 1 year. So thank you for that question. Apologies if I talk a little bit fast, because they only gave me 1 minute. So I think, have I passed my 1 minute? She's standing there. So thank you. I hope I answered at least some questions. I really wanted to just pique your interest and add a few hooks. If you all have any more questions, please reach out to Roshan, and I'm sure most of you all know me, know some of our investors here. So reach out anytime for clarity, for understanding, for awareness, anything. That's what the Commission is here to do. As the government authority for the project. So thank you and enjoy the rest of the agenda, and thank you, Roshan.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dhanya Gunawardena. A moment, we request to remain as there is a token of appreciation to be presented by Mr. Roshan Madawela. You can come forward. Thank you very much for sharing a very well elaborated presentation on Port City. And next, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the next panel discussion, and that will be moderated by Mr. Nilesh De Silva, Chartered Architect and Managing Partner, Kahawita De Silva Associates Private Limited. May we please have Mr. Nilesh. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome our moderator for the next panel discussion. Our panelists are Mr. Srinath Desoiza, Director of International Chamber of Commerce, Property Investor and member of RIUNIT's Advisory Board. A round of applause as we welcome him. Ms. Minoli Vikramasinghe, Chairperson, CEO, Capital Trust Properties Private Limited, and Ms. Hiroshini Fernando, CEO and Executive Director, RIL Properties PLC. And we give the control over to our moderator, Mr. Nilesh. Over to you.
All right, evening, ladies and gentlemen. So now we move on to part 2, which focuses on a highly relevant strategic question of Sri Lanka's future. The positioning of Colombo Port City as an emerging magnet for real estate investment, and more importantly, how we can attract meaningful share of the 1 trillion that Roshan had mentioned about. So let me give you a little bit of a context. I think Dhanya touched a little bit on this as well. So globally, we have seen how leading developments, what I'm going to mention is going to be predominantly financial, but we are looking at it from more of a holistic point of view. The districts such as your Dubai International Financial Center, Gift City in Gujarat, Marina Bay in Singapore, and most recently King Abdullah Financial District, and how they have successfully positioned themselves as an investment destination. In parallel to that, you got your broader economic zones, such as the Jebel Ali Free Trade Zone, the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone in China. And they have, I think what you need to take out of this is how they have demonstrated policy which led the growth. Export-oriented framework, investor-friendly ecosystems, and they actually can act as a catalyst in a large-scale economic transformation. what is consistent across these examples is not just the ambition that we all have, but clarity on policy, regulatory certainty, ease of doing business, infrastructure delivered ahead of the demand, and focus on execution at scale. So each of these developments has built investor confidence by ensuring that capital is met with predictability, speed, and a clear pathway to returns. For Sri Lanka, and particularly for the port city, the opportunity is actually very clear. The question is, how do we translate this potential into a competitive, investable, deliverable proposition within this region and the global context? So, for some reason, I have been dealt with 3 tough panelists over here who are going to be very vocal in their points of view. So I had to very quickly target my questions to each one separately. So, Srinath, I'm going to start with you, right? So to begin this discussion, considering the entry of Sri Lanka's top-tier developments into Port City, which is actually a really good sign, how would an apartment investor evaluate the opportunity presented, particularly in terms of investment potential, maybe market demand, risk, and long-term returns?
First and foremost, I would like to talk about trust. As an investor, as an investment community in this country, when you look at from an investor's point of view, I think trust comes number one. I'm saying this because over COVID and afterwards through the economic crisis that we went through, because of that, the trust has been, eroded with some of the developers and the industry as a whole. So I would like to say that when we look at the first thing is to understand and build trust in terms of from a developer's perspective. What we look when we try to invest is to, first and foremost, when we invest in a property, we most of the time invest off plan, that is there is nothing on the ground, and then we move forward, and the thing is, it's a dream that we are being sold, and that dream has to become a reality from our part to make the second investment. Otherwise, the first time investor will get discouraged and move on. So I think that is extremely important. What are the milestones in terms of construction? I think it is very important that people, the developers keep to a very robust construction timeline. During COVID, it was next to impossible. We all understand, but we have passed that and come to a more sustainable environment. And now we have some issues as well. But I think that is very important. At the same time, I also feel that other than the timeline, quality also plays a big role. In some companies, when you go and discuss at off-plan level, they say these are the fittings are going to be this, the toilet, the fittings will be from another brand, and also the tiles and so forth. I think that is very important because, this is more or less a pie in the sky. So it is very important that we get some idea of what the finishes would be. And there is also, the photographs of course look nice, but at the same time, there should be a parity between the photographs that are shown in a brochure and what is delivered. I think in some markets, I know for a fact, in Dubai, they take pride in saying that our buildings, our developments, when it is finished, it looks quite like the renderings that we gave 2 or 3 years ago. And I think that resonates well for the, in terms of the developer, the investor to go for the second and the third investment. I think I'll keep it at that for now.
Thanks a lot, Srinath. That I think was a quite an elaborative answer on what we were looking at. I'm going to now direct this question to Minoli, please. From a developer and an investment perspective, how do we ensure what is being planned is actually not visionary, but achieves real product market fit in terms of pricing, absorption, and end user demand? That is obviously within the Sri Lankan context.
I think one has to see the price to, the value to price preposition, right? And Sri Lanka is not a mature market, right? So the demand is for certain properties. So a lot of the developers go for very, elaborate properties. I think one example I would say is ITC, which sold very slowly because our market was not ready for it, right? So we have to be very careful when we plan out projects. And, we've seen that there are a lot of geopolitical problems. The world is going through chaos. And obviously 90% of our construction is imported. So cost of construction surely will go up. So those are things that we have to be mindful. So Capital Trust Properties is the largest property transaction company. So our mandate is to recommend and show if there are risk factors, we show that as well, right? And we handhold the client throughout the process, from the purchase to the furnishing to the renting to even disposal, right? We won't end up there. You'll see the appreciation as well. We've been in the market from 2010. So we know the problems, we know the labor problems, we know the cost of construction. So you have to be mindful, the end product should be usable. Okay, a person buys that product for maybe 120 million. He has to be having a yield of about 12%. And also, what is the market today? Is it sustainable, what we have today? Because 90%, I think, most of the foreign rentals are done by Capital Trust Properties, so we know, right? So that is where we need to be mindful.
Thank you, Minoli. I really appreciate that. Roshani, can I throw this in your direction as well? You want me to read it out? So from a developer and investment perspective, do we need to ensure what is being planned is not just visionary, but achieves real market fit in terms of pricing, absorption, and end user demand?
Okay, from a developer's perspective, one of the key things that we would look at is, specifically speaking from a commercial segment, because these are not developments that we do for a short term. These are developments that we do for a long term use, because we would end up probably being managers of the same space, because currently Sri Lanka does not have much of a demand for commercial space being sold as condominium, but which is readily available elsewhere, but it doesn't have much of an appetite at this point. So generally when you go into commercial space, what happens is we end up owning the space, and this is mostly a lease model. So on models like that, we are also, we have certain restraints on the revenue generation, and because of the leases, it's a long-term commitment. So we have to ensure that we plan our developments to meet a future requirement. Because generally, commercial space evolves all the time. The requirements, the needs, the sectors that grow, there is a huge variation and different requirements coming. So our projects need to be agile enough to be able to take on the changes that come up in a couple of years' time. So basic of the building, the sustainability, the energy efficiency, all those would need to be aligned. It needs to be future ready, but we need to be flexible in customizing our space to meet the requirement of the client. So I think that's the clear differentiation between residential and commercial, and so our purpose or focus would be being able to adapt.
Thank you, Hiroshini. Actually, she heads the RIL properties. I'm sure everybody knows about that. So they have a good insight on what's happening and what not to do. On that same note, let me just twist it a little bit. Now, Dhanya mentioned that it was 51% in the port city for residential. What is the feasibility for commercial real estate? Or how do we attract commercial real estate investors? Or how do we attract you into the port city?
That's a tough question, but I'll answer it on a very neutral manner. So I think, as Dhanya said, there is a financial segment allocated, and if you actually see the records of Port City, where the AP registrations have taken place, there is almost about 60 to 80 APs registered, and majority of them are BPOs. And currently, I think Capital Trust would be able to affirm this because currently the commercial space is fully taken up by them, because there is almost around 400 to 500,000 square feet being used by them at this point. So any contender who comes into the port city at this time will have a ready demand of this amount for that person to take on. The only how do you say, the only deterring factor probably from my perspective is the regulations on construction. The FAR that has been allocated for commercial spaces is not practically feasible for investors like us. But if you actually have different financial models, you may be able to, make a very positive project out of it. But other than that, the first mover definitely will have a massive advantage on this. Unfortunately, the changes in the tax system that has happened, which is predominantly beneficial for investment company who is going to commercial, because they are looking at long term, then they are the people who actually generate revenue over 20-25 years, has been taken out. So that also is a deterrent, but for example, if I believe for residences where you sell and exit of the project, this doesn't bring in so much value. But this tax exemption being taken out is also a deterring factor.
It's a shame Dhanya had to run off. This would have been a good question for her.
Had Raveen been here, I would have had, so many things. So I'm quite glad he's not here.
That's fine. So you guys just saw that tag team going on here between Minoli and Hiroshini. So I'm going to throw this back at you. Again, ICC has kicked off, if I'm not mistaken, with some commercial developments. Should it be commercial, or should it be targeted BPO, or do we need to develop into that, or do we just see, because the mainland is basically restricted with a footprint. I think all of us design on a footprint because that is the sweet spot. That you could rent out a floor, you could rent out multiple floors, you could combine the floors together. So looking at the port city, again from a purely commercial point of view where the game is long term, what would they need to do just to tweak that?
I think, in my opinion, basically they should just do the A grade office spaces, but we have to be mindful. The only problem that I have, is if our policies remain consistent, that is where I seem to lose it out, because we seem to be changing policies as we walk, right? So we had zero tax, corporate tax, zero pay tax, zero tax on dividends, all that is reversed, right? So what would we tell an investor that comes? Actually, I had a huge investor coming from India, and I took them to Port City. I would have liked Dhanya to be here, because he simply said, I don't want Port City, I will deal with Minoli, because she tells me the timelines. Because for a foreign investor, timelines are very important. And you lose him once, you lose him forever. So that is exactly where we pitch it in a different way. What we do is we give the concept of the port city. We market it, but then what we do is we let them go to the mainland initially, right? And they relocate when it's right. And that we keep the client also with us, without losing them. So I think, yes, commercial space is a need of the hour, but then we need to see how consistent our policies going ahead is.
Thank you, Minoli. So wherever the ball is hit, it's the policies that keep bouncing back. So hopefully walls have ears. So let's very swiftly move on from that. Srinath, back to you. For a global investor, comparing Colombo with markets like maybe Dubai, not too much India per se, and emerging Middle Eastern hubs, a decision comes back to risk versus return. That at the end of the day, that's what it is. Let's just be brutally honest about it. What specific incentives, safeguards, or market signals do we need to strengthen to remain competitive as far as Port City is concerned?
Just let me say a footnote on these commercial spaces. I think, most of the A-grade commercial spaces are now full. There is nothing available. So, and you can't, develop that kind of building or space in a hurry. So, it is going to be a ongoing problem for the next few years to come. In terms of when a global investor is looking at Sri Lanka and also is comparing against other destinations, right? Yes. I think the biggest problem I have seen, not only now, but over the last 20 years, is our policy inconsistency. That is where the buck stops. Because as you said, as we discussed, long-term investors are looking for long-term stability, and they borrow long-term also. So, when they, and these are not small projects, you're looking at 100 million USD plus that kind of projects. And for them, their financial outlook and the rigor is very, very tight. They do a lot of research and analysis before they invest, because they are investing big money. So this hit or miss business will not work out. So I think that is number one. And I think Minoli also touched on the cost of getting this off the ground. So there are issues there as well. But having, we can give a lot of excuses, but the issue is, as a country, as a port city, as the developers, as the ecosystem, we have to rise above these issues. And the thing is, I think all parties concerned must pull together. There are forums for that. And I think whatever said and done, the government will be willing to listen, at least. And with time, they will change. I think we need to keep on canvassing for what is good for the country. And then for business also, what is good for the country and what is good for business, and then move on. But having said that, now I see in the last 1 year or so, with all the issues that we talk about, there is quite a presence, inflow of expat workers. Maybe for inside Port City, for AP registered companies or otherwise. So the good news is, we are getting investment with all the issues that we talk about. So I think, not one thing, but the whole ecosystem has to move on, move forward, and get better tweaked so that we are at a better spot in terms of global competition.
Sorry, Minoli, you were itching to say something to that.
I think, I think all of us pointed out, policy consistency is a must if a large investor wants to come in. Even if I want to invest, I need that certainty, right? Now, for example, why would people from, we've been pitching now, Dubai, for instance, has been a safe haven, right? And with all this geopolitics, we should have actually opened up our visa, this thing, so that, you facilitate the visas as fast as possible. I know I lived in Hong Kong, and when I went there, I just got my ID, right? But Sri Lanka still finds it difficult to give investors the visas fast enough. So we should have acted. We have lost an opportunity, actually, right? So we need to grab those opportunities. But why would a Dubai investor come here? When I asked them, they said, you still don't have certainty. Dubai, at least, Dubai government helps its people even in the times of need. So we don't see government helping us in this way. Because now, I'll tell you one instance. There was an instance where this development, it was affected by COVID, then it was affected by a financial crisis, then the exchange rate went up, interest rates went up from 9 to 30%, and a client who would have bought it had to, they put retrospective tax of 20%. And how in the world? I mean, that was, that was not done. It's a retrospective tax because the client never knew about the tax. And he is now burdened with a 30% interest. I think that's wrong. So the government has to understand, even, even in times of difficulty, you have to protect the, the companies. that are paying the taxes. Who else is going to pay taxes if the companies go bankrupt? We are a few of the companies that are doing well, right? So you have to know FDIs have to come in. IMF, yes, IMF we had to go, but IMF is not the best solution. We all know that, right? We had to go to that. But you have to negotiate now. When the 20% tax was put on, the VAT was put, I even wrote to the president, this is dumb. Because why? We are not being competitive. We are losing out much more. So those are things, policies that should be fought with all authorities, because we are losing out as a country.
Thank you, Minoli. So let me just quickly summarize here. I'm going to do one round of quick fire questions here. What are the key execution risks or bottlenecks that impact Port City's credibility? And you cannot say policy. I think I have heard that one before. Just one thing that these guys could take home. Hiroshini?
I think it's sustained demand, because all of us are investing into any project. Now this is a very specific landmass, which has its own governance and infrastructure and all of that, and we are trying to market it as such. And if we are to see this development prosper and bring what is expected out of it, then I think we need to ensure there is sustained demand. It is not only for commercial, it has to be all round. It has to end up being the vision that has been created. Because if we only have piecemeal developments, it could be, I understand, I think when we were speaking on this earlier, I think the comment was, if a development is done, the development will be retained in the country. But then we also have examples of developments that have turned into ghost cities, which is evidence enough, where you have only 1% occupancy. So I think we need to be aware, cautioned, and then stayed forth. And so I think the key thing is sustained demand.
Thank you. Minoli, any thoughts?
I think I've been negative in all these things, but I find Port City a marvelous development if it fulfills what it should be, because it's like the DIFC. It's a special economic zone. The government has to understand this is a special economic zone with its special policies. And now, for example, if you go to the mainland, it's ridiculous. You can't transact in dollars, right? Even if a Port City entity pays your rent for an individual who's a Sri Lankan, we are disadvantaged. We can't accept in dollars, right? So I think that's insane as well. So, but so this is a special economic zone, so it should attract FDIs, and we should also have that sort of incentives in place. So I think the government should fight with the IMF to keep that incentives in place, because that's the only way we can develop this nation. Because if you see in from the point of view of an investor, where the world is my playground. I can invest. Dubai is cheap, I will go to Dubai now. You understand? So we have to show what are the KPIs that keep Port City going. So here you could employ foreigners. And I thought that it was ridiculous that we restrict that, because Australia, US take our workforce talented workforce. Why can't we do that? So at least in Port City, we are able to do that, right? So all those attractions should remain at Port City. And it has to be a special economic zone if it is going to prosper. And political interference can't be there. It has to be transparent in its enactment of all laws, which I haven't seen that lately. So those are the things that, the transparency is must. We'll think, oh, it's a glorious project, but if there's no transparency, there's going to be only few entities that are going to come in, and there are no, foreign anchor clients who are going to come in. So that is the thing. You need to get a few very foreign large anchor clients coming in.
That's what will make this development sustainable in the long run. Totally agree with you. So guys, I'm going to throw a few questions out to the audience. Do you all have anything you want to? Yes. Can we please have a mic over there?
To ask a second question, I think I'd like to thank the panel for convincing us that this is indeed, Port City is indeed a wonder project. It's an economic wonder. But let me quickly tell you what's happening in the world. There's a capital flight from Dubai, from the Middle East. And the top tier is going to Switzerland and London and Singapore. And the second tier is even going to Indonesia, Thailand, and even Pakistan, because they're ready. And we get some calls from London about investing in Sri Lanka, but not for apartments. They do institutional. So my question is, do we have a country strategy? What we have a strategy to promote this wonderful project? Or is it left to just the retailers, like the companies we understand? Thank you.
Thanks for that. Again, we miss our Port City representative here. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth here, so I'm not going to answer that question. Roshan, you think you could help me out with that?
I think Rohan said yes, they are working on the session. I know they're working really hard. They're flying all over the world, promoting the Port City continuously, right? Even some of the other people who were supposed to fill in for Rohan cannot do so because they fly into India too. I mean, it's not easy to sell 2.5 hectares of land in a project like this, but I can tell you one thing. Every time we've been trying to promote this in the last 5 years around the world, independent of the Port City, first question is, okay, who's already there? Because momentum was something that the Port City lacked, right? There was nothing really happening here. But now in the last 12 months, we've seen some $1 billion US worth of investment coming in. So that spells really great news because now there's a story, there's a momentum, and who knows, the global situation and the environment might be conducive for us to see Port City take off further. I agree with Mr. Dillon, it's a marvelous and wonderful project, so it deserves the light of day, right?
Right. I hope that was somewhat an answer towards what you had asked. Do we have any more questions?
If I can,
Sure.
if I can just add on to the question that was raised, I think one other thing that is probably needed is intercommunication between Economic Commission and mainland. Because the mainland authorities, specifically the government authorities, the bankers even, are not fully versed in how to handle requirements that come in. Specifically, everyone is on a learning exercise. I know there are so many forums, awareness sessions being kept, but still for all, the people who actually need to be aware of for the execution part of it is not, up to date on it. So I think that's a key lag there.
I would like to add also, the thing is there's institutional fragmentation. Okay, there is a special economic commission that makes the laws, but then it has to again go back to the UDA, all of that, and then you go to the immigration. They don't respect the fact that this is a special economic zone, right? So that acceptance, I think, has not been done, because we see that every time there's resistance of this project. So we have to understand this is a 99-year lease. I lived in Hong Kong, right? So that was a 99-year lease. So everyone says, oh, this is a Chinese project. So that is the first thing that comes, the acceptance and governance risks, right? So those are things that, like you said, okay, it should not be the private sector organizations that are promoting this. This has to have some sort of strategy when you're going to a country. You can't just market plots of land if you don't have a strategy in place and the policies in place to glue everything together.
Thank you, Minoli. And that was a good way of looking at it. So in short, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Okay. So again, thank you very much, panel. It's been fantastic. Thank you to the audience. So what clearly emerges is that while the opportunity of Colombo Port City is significant, success will ultimately depend on how we align a few critical fundamentals that we have been talking about now. Policy, investor confidence, product fit, infrastructure readiness, execution capabilities. And from a developer's point of view, an investor standpoint, the message is clear. Decisions are driven by certain speed, risk-return balance, and clarity of exit. So while our panel was quite critical with how we saw the Port City development, which is a good thing because we don't want to sit here and say everything good about it, because it's just not going to, it's going to be a waste of the tea and coffee we're going to get. From an architect's point of view, we have the Port City, we have 51% residential, we have our education, we have the entire city. But Port City, please don't forget that we have a mainland there. So the animal you create here should complement the mainland, and that's super critical. So I'm going to leave that with you all, and I'm going to say thank you very much again for your time.
Thank you very much, and we request the moderator and the panelists to kindly remain for a moment as we wish to convey our gratitude once again, and we invite Mr. Roshan Madawela, CEO and founder of RIUNIT, to do the honors of presenting the tokens of appreciation. To our moderator, Mr. Nilesh De Silva, Chartered Architect and Managing Partner, Kahawita De Silva Associates Private Limited, and our panelists, Mr. Shenath De Silva, Director of International Chamber of Commerce, Property Investor and member of RIUNIT's Advisory Board, and Ms. Minoli Vikramasinghe, Chairperson, CEO, Capital Trust Properties Private Limited. Thank you very much, ma'am. And Ms. Hiroshini Fernando, CEO, Executive Director, I L Properties PLC. Next we have a presentation, and that is from ICC, and we invite Mr. Bhatia Athikorala, Assistant Manager of International Construction Consortium Private Limited. A round of applause as we welcome him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bhatia Athikorala, International Construction Consortium. BOI Residences Colombo is the first ultra-luxury residential development which is in Port City. Not like other locations in Colombo and Sri Lanka, Port City is a brand new city which is coming to Colombo, and BOI is coming up with global standards with your trusted developer, International Construction Consortium. So ICC, International Construction Consortium, hold the highest national grading, which is CS2, is awarded by Construction Industry Development Authority. And we are certified with many ISO standards, and we operate with specialized divisions like construction of building, road and bridges, highways, water and sewage, and we have in-house architectural, structural and MEP engineers. So especially we are among the only 3 Sri Lankan contractors who has built 30+ story apartments and the buildings. And again, we are the only contractor who is completed 50 plus stories residential tower in Sri Lanka. And we have expand our value with ready-mix concrete, precast solutions, and steel and aluminum fabrications, well as the timber solution, prefabricated housing, and environment solutions. So, well as the local, and we are working with the international projects in Maldives, Papua New Guinea, and Saudi Arabia.
Another presentation, and that will be conducted by Ms. Mariela Van Dort, Manager, Client Relations and Communication from Prime Group. A round of applause as we welcome her.
Many industries, but ultimately it is earned by those who only meet the highest possible standards. And today, we stand as the largest listed real estate entity on the Colombo Stock Exchange. And we are proud to be among those who do so. So not many make the cut, but we have definitely done. We are also further reinforced by our recognition as a Gold Award winner at the TAGS Award for consecutive years as well. That foundation for you. The rest is up to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mariela Van Dort, for your presentation on behalf of Prime Group. And next we invite Ms. Ashin Saneev Veerasinghe, Head of Business Development and Marketing Operations, Homelands Group. A round of applause as we welcome her.
Come on, we're driving growth of real estate to the world. It's Sri Lanka. We got to carry our identity. Ayubowan. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know it has been a very long forum for all of us. We are all here to drive the growth of real estate to the world, of real estate of Sri Lanka to the world. And first and foremost, thank you very much, Port City. Thank you very much, Roshan, for organizing this. And thank you very much to all the developers. This is where Homelands come to bridge that gap. Because Homelands, Sri Lanka's #1 most trusted and most innovative developer.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashin Saneev Veerasinghe. And yes, we are moving on with the next panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the third part of the forum, a people-centric approach to the real estate sector, national policy, affordability, role of banking and finance, social housing, and synergy with other sectors. And the moderator for this would be Dr. Anil Priyankara Badavithana, Senior Consultant, RIUNIT. A round of applause as we welcome our moderator. And our panelists are Reza Magdon Ismail, Director, CEO, Crystal Property Group Private Limited, Priyanka Samaravira, Executive Director, Investment Promotion and Research, Board of Investments of Sri Lanka, and Ms. Romali Tudawe, CEO and Director, Tudawe Brothers. A round of applause to our panelists, and we give the control over to Dr. Anil Priyankara.
Good evening to all. This is the final and the most important segment. Of course, we are looking at 10-year landscape where we are going to be, where we are today and where are we going. And I have an interesting panel to discuss about the way forward. Now, where are we? We are a republic. I think people tend to forget that we are a republic, because a people-centric approach is only applicable to a republic. Wherever you find real estate development, the people should be at the center. Not speculation, not profits. Of course, they should come, but people-centric. Singapore became a republic in 1965. Sri Lanka became a republic in 1972. But still, I don't think we understand what a republic is. Otherwise, Port City has been there right along. Why was it only last year, 2025, we were able to attract the largest foreign investment in real estate, US dollars 1 billion? Yeah. We always say that Singapore is standing out as one of the most successful public housing programs globally. The critical factor behind Singapore's success is the real estate market is proactive. Government stewardship through comprehensive long-term land planning and market intervention that to mitigate speculative bubbles. I think it was spoken earlier as well. There are speculative bubbles. that can damage boom and bust economy, where it can damage even the property markets. So to the panelists, I have these questions because they are the experts and they are in the field and they know how to manage the hopes and aspirations of the people in the Republic of Sri Lanka. So when we talk about a people-centric approach to housing, we are looking at developers and affordable housing and turning into home where convenience, appeal, and quality matters. From your standpoint, how can the industry balance profitability with affordability in housing projects without compromising quality? First, I pose that to Riza.
Sure, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, RIU, for having me on this panel. It's an interesting question. Our focus as a group is, of course, very much on the luxury hospitality real estate side. So commenting on affordable housing is not really my forte, but I'll give it a go based on what we've learned from the industry. So I think there's a structural issue that has to be addressed first in terms of how we make it sustainable and profitable for developers to move into that market. Sri Lanka has probably one of the highest construction costs in the region, which makes it very challenging for any developer to move into affordable housing segments. The developer cost structure has to be looked at. For example, we have anti-competitive pricing strategies in cement, steel, etc., which make it very challenging for developers, not just ourselves, but any developer to move into that industry. So I think the government has to really look at incentivizing developers to move into that sector. If that's not possible, then it has to be a government-driven initiative. If you look at the success of the HBD housing in Singapore, that's quite an interesting case study. Singapore was really a slum city in the 60s, which has now developed into a city where 90% of the population actually owns homes. So how was that implemented? Firstly, the government made land acquisition. It made land acquisition cheap for the Housing Development Board. So they got preferential pricing in terms of acquisition of land in the city. In addition, they were also allowed to dip into the central fund. So for us, it's the EPF scheme. So investors were allowed to dip into the EPF scheme to fund their mortgages. So I think those are that's an interesting dynamic of how Singapore actually was able to build sustainable housing. So I think for us, for example, in Sri Lanka, the state owns 82% of the land. It's one of the highest state-owned land in the entire region. So there's a lot of unutilized land in Colombo that is owned by the state. So these are policy decisions that the government can take and maybe possibly allow certain income brackets to access their EPF to be able to fund these mortgages. So I think that's probably where I see us being able to really develop affordable housing. If the government wants the private sector to take a stab into it, then I think it's really important that they look at the cost structure, because without aligning the cost structure, it just simply makes it impossible for any private developer to move into the space.
Thank you very much. It's a very comprehensive answer. Actually, you hit the nail on the head when you said government policy owning 82% of the land, but only 0.2% is urbanized. So we can see the difference. Singapore owns 90% of the land, and they have a systematic way of liberalizing the land for public use, right? So thank you. And also the infrastructure, which you touched upon, very important. So Ms. Priyanka, you are actually representing the government, the one-stop shop, right? The BOI, which had been the dream that we've been thinking, okay, investment has to flow through the BOI, right? So what is your take on this question?
Actually, thank you very much for giving this opportunity to me and the BOI. If we consider the BOI portfolio in the real estate, we have around 350 real estate companies operating under the BOI, which is about 17% of the BOI portfolio of 2,000 companies. And out of which we have around 46 housing development projects, mostly private sector investments coming into, and they are targeting the high-end consumers. Most of the projects are high-end consumer basis. And we have a couple of investment projects where BOI has given land maybe 10-15 years back, and the private sector has invested in those projects. So other than that, most of them are private sector. But if we come into the aspects of this people-centric and affordable housing, I think the ideal would be if the government can engage in that, but given the financial constraints, that is not possible. So what I think the best would be is to go for a PPP basis, where the government can give land and the private sector can get involved in doing the development. There, what we can expect is to have some sort of reasonable profit margin, as well as the private sector efficiency coming into the scene. So I think that would be something to think of to improve the real estate sector.
Yes, the public-private sector partnership probably is responsible for attracting so much of foreign investment. That's a really good way to go, and that's the great initiative that you all have taken. Thank you. And I will pose the same question to Romali, who comes from construction sector. So how do you see this people-centric housing?
Good evening, everybody. I think energy levels are a bit low. It's a Tuesday. It's close to 6 p.m. Coffee is probably running out, so I'll try to be as entertaining as possible. So with people-centric, I had no idea what this meant. So I read an article randomly about 2 months ago, written by this policy economist. His name is Daniel Alphonsus. He runs this newsletter called The Examiner. Very interesting, very quirky. If you want to know how nerds write articles, I would highly recommend you subscribe to it. So what he was talking about is the Summit Flats and the Manning Town Flats. So when I asked him, Daniel, what do you think is people-centric? He said, Romali is very simple. People-centric means cheap and cheerful. And I was like, cheap and cheerful? He's like, yeah, cheap and cheerful. Everything we've discussed today is ultra-luxury lifestyles, right? But what is affordable people-centric housing? I would add, it's not only cheap and cheerful, but it's cheap and cheerful done right. So what does that mean? It means it's not framing affordability as a product. Because when you're looking at maximizing profits, but also giving a price point to someone who can afford it, we often tend to look at it as, okay, how much is an X amount of square foot priced at, and how many square foot do we need for a family to live in? I'm saying let's look at it a little bit differently. What I'm talking about is, how are we not going to sell a product, but what is the process that we need to make Colombo or Sri Lanka a people-centric livable city? So in line with this, I'm not talking about stripping down all of your luxury condos and making it cheap enough for people to live in. That's also not what they want. I've listened to many developers here who are kind of hitting the nail on the head by saying we create communities. But what do they mean by this? But also they're too expensive, so can we afford it? When we're looking at what is the real issue with people-centric living, we are really talking about two problems, density and supply. So I have 3 points to articulate why density and supply is going to be a problem. I'm probably going to rip a little bit off from Reza's answer, so I'm sorry about that, but he did hit the nail on the head. The first issue is your available land banks. 75% to 85% of Sri Lanka's land is held by the government. 15% is held by the public, and about 10% of that is in litigation. So this doesn't allow supply. It's not a geolocational problem. If you take Colombo, nowhere else in the world do you go 10 kilometers down the road from Colombo and land prices plummet like no tomorrow. So we live in this artificially created bubble because of a simple issue. It's a structural problem. Why am I saying it's a structural problem? If we had more public transport that allowed you quick access from your living areas nearby the CDB, your land prices won't have to be astronomically high in one zone and dirt poor in the next zone. So that's one issue that we need to resolve. And as Reza said, it's an infrastructure problem, right? So this is an issue. We have to create better railways, better public transportational hubs that allow people to access from wherever they are into the heart of Colombo and still live in a people-centric, affordable environment. The second issue is, again, Reza hit the nail on the head, construction inputs. We have so many tariffs, para-tariffs, and we have restrictions and taxes. So all of this artificially increases the cost of construction. For anything to be affordable as a process, we need to relook at that. I'm especially referring to cement, steel. Try getting an aluminum shipment down without paying about 5 to 6 taxes. You can't, it's virtually impossible. The second issue that we have under this is our labor supply. It's not steady. Most of them have left to build in other affordable investment hubs. You can't find a BSc Morotua quantity survey even if your life depended on it, right? So we have that issue as well. Professionalism has left the country, and we have a labor supply problem because nobody wants to come and do construction work. So without the labor, without the input, without the land, we have an affordability problem and a density problem. The third one is this concept of a 15-minute livable city. What do I mean by that? Today, the husband is working in an office building somewhere else. The wife is also working in an office building somewhere else. The kid is in school. The kid's activities are in another city that you can't get to. And your kid's friends live in some other city, right? So there is no common modality to connect this family into its immediate living environment. So it's a 15-minute livable city concept that we should be aiming for, which is difficult in Colombo because of the density and the supply problem. I'm not going to take too long on this, but at the moment, we are moving towards high-rises. All of the presentations today are aimed at that. Now, Dan Gill, this famous architect, said, the tower is the lazy architect's solution to density problem. That's not what we should be aiming for. Because though Colombo, and you would have heard this throughout, Colombo is a very livable city, right? It's very livable. But why are we living in it? What do we really like? We are not yet truly urbanized. I think many statistics show that our high-rise living is actually lower than other urbanized city living. Why is that? Because as Sri Lankans, we actually like this bungalow-style living where we can access a garden and our kids can play around with them. We know the shop owner. And that's the comfort that we get. So in order to do that, what do we need to do? We need to think about, as many of the developers have spoken today, about this community aspect. So there is a middle path. That's called the mid-rise building. And we did have it in the 70s and the 80s. Why are we not having it now? Density and supply. But can we have it in our suburbs? Absolutely. Let's all the international investors come and invest in all of these high-rises. Let's allow them to do that. Let's allow the rental market to go on. But where can we live? In these new livable areas that the government has to improve in terms of infrastructure and allow us to have these sort of mid-rise livable bungalows. And the last aspect that I would say about people-centric living is that humans are incredibly social. Why do we wear the clothes we wear? We want to show it off to somebody else. Why do we go out for a coffee? We want to meet another human. Why do we buy whatever we buy? Most of it is to communicate with other humans. Above the 5th floor of every building, your human factor disappears. Why? You can't recognize a human face after the 5th floor. So this concept is very important. The world is moving towards high-rise. But we're losing out on that incredibly tangible factor of humans and being grounded. So these are the 3 things that sort of come to mind when I think about people-centric living. So just to summarize, it's a process. It's not a product. For that to happen, definitely the government has to improve infrastructure and transport. Thirdly, cost of inputs have to come down. And finally, we have to move away from this concept of just solving everything through high-rise. We have to think about other urban ways of living and utilizing land. And if everybody's worried that I'm now propagating that we stop all the high-rises, I'm not. That's bad for my business. But what I actually mean is there are cities in Europe, in London, in Paris, in Spain, in Barcelona, where mid-rise living is very much accepted. So let's look at these alternative models.
Thank you so much, Ramali. I think this is why I said that this is the most interesting segment, because we are taking ideas going forward. Singapore solution is not for us. We have land. Singapore doesn't. So high-rise is not the only solution. High-rise may be a solution, but as Ramali said, the difference in price between Colombo 7 and Colombo 8, Colombo 6, just imagine, just across the border, it's a totally different price tag.
Actually, high-rise buildings are more expensive to make.
Yes.
Because you need common utility. Yes.
Exactly.
And you need lifts.
Yes.
Mid-rise buildings, you don't need that.
You don't need. So, so therefore, it's a mixed bag. It's a solution that we have to have homegrown solution. We can't just follow any other model, but we have all the resources. I mean, the problem that we are losing the human capital is that because we are not paying the right kind of wages for the value that we are creating. So fine, thank you very much. You actually answered few of my questions I wanted to pose to you. So I go to Riza. Riza, tell me, do you see a synergy between the tourist sector? Because tourism has been one of the biggest thrusts that we are going forward to improve our economy, and the real estate sector. And how can this relationship be better leveraged for Sri Lanka's economy benefit?
Thanks. So this is more kind of my wheelhouse, tourism and real estate, because the group we founded is basically completely hinged on both those sectors. So I think the fundamental to most industries fundamentally real estate. When it comes to tourism, it's also equally an important anchor. Real estate is probably the most important anchor for tourism. And from our perspective, what we see is, look, Sri Lanka is positioning ourselves as a regional, if not global, tourism destination. Now, from a real estate perspective, how do we enhance or how do we drive value into that sector? I think it comes from, firstly, I think it has to come from improved infrastructure. The country has to be more accessible. So there's a myriad of things that have to happen for, I think, the real estate sector to really get gassed up, as I would say. But fundamentally, I also feel that we need to encourage more international hospitality companies to come into Sri Lanka. With all due respect to everyone here, it's a completely local context in terms of what we are presenting. But where are the international developers? Where are the international brands? And what have we not done well enough to attract them here? So I think that's a fundamental that comes from, again, regulation, ease of doing business. And I think that's something that we have to really look at. In terms of our case study, what we've seen is I think there's a lot of foreign interest in Sri Lanka as a real estate destination. And the easiest way for us to market ourselves is with that hospitality angle. I think branded residences can do phenomenally well, not just in the city, but with a resort angle as well. You'll find more investment coming into those sectors in the long term. I'm a complete believer that hospitality-driven real estate is what is going to really drive foreign investment into Sri Lanka, not just condos in the city, not apartment blocks in the city, but it's going to be branded residences, resorts, that are really going to entice foreign investors to come in and actually access those assets. As I think someone mentioned earlier, we already have the schemes in terms of 10-year visas, 15-year visas that are enticing people. But we don't have enough product that entice people to own a holiday home. Not everyone wants to own a holiday home in the city. I mean, you're looking, we have so much more to offer. So I think with that, I think it's really important that that tourism infrastructure comes in. That's what we as a group are focused on. We're the only Sri Lankan branded residence provider. We look at it full cycle. We don't just build resorts and residences. We build the entire infrastructure, the ecosystem around it. We have our own hospitality brand that manages. So it's not just about building and handing over, but who's going to manage these. Now we do our management ourselves, but I think it's really important that the international brands also come in and do that management, because that will what will ultimately drive the real estate values up. And if that's what we're looking for as a country, then I really believe that we need more international competition to make all of us better.
Thank you very much. That's actually very true, and a lesson that we can learn from the Maldives, because Maldives has been driving real estate value in their country, reclaiming land. I've been there for about 8 years, and I know the ground situation there and how tactfully they've been doing it. And they're also a republic, always people-centric. They look at the people's problems. How do we provide standard quality housing with infrastructure to the people? Regional airports, the bridges to link islands, right? All that. So I think that was lacking in Sri Lanka, right? We've not thought of the infrastructure, because when we got independence, we were 7 million people. Today we have 22 million after 78 years. So the population has grown. And like what Romali said, we need to have a lifestyle, right? So for that, we've not been able to go forward at the same pace that the population grew. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to add one thing, I want to be also very optimistic. I think as a hospitality destination, there is really no country in the world that has what we have to offer.
Potential.
So to leverage into real estate is just completely, it will be a game changer for us, but it's right there for us to take.
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of opportunity.
This is a newfound, enthusiasm the world over. Only within Sri Lanka we still have politics, playing football, with the people. But actually, we are poised to conquer a huge market, tourism market, and high-end tourism market. And a lesson that we can learn from the Maldives, and the Maldivian president is here, how much we value the relationship we have and the lessons. They learned tourism from us, and now they've beaten us, their high-value tourism is there. So, kudos. Actually, thank you for your answer. And so I again turn to the BOI. Priyanka, what do you think the policy levers that we can use in Sri Lanka to attract socially responsible investment into real estate rather than purely speculative investments?
Yeah. Actually, coming into that, in considering the social responsible investment, that can be in two aspects. I am focusing on this people-centric and low middle income targeting group. And if these investments to be social responsible, that can be happen, for example, if there is some sort of financial incentive package for the investors who are focusing on these aspects. For example, if they are looking for some sort of energy efficiency, or maybe rooftop solar or something like that. So if they can be incentivized in that aspect, so that will be a very good opportunity for them. If I elaborate further, we had this SDP Act in 2008, where we have a very attractive package for investment projects. And with that SDP Act coming into scene, we have, at the moment, we have around 15 companies. And most of them are in real estate sector, I should say. So with the IMF suggestions, we had to hold it in last 2025. And I am happy to say that we are having it again. That will be happening. The government approval is given and the cabinet approval is given. So similar to that, if we can have some sort of incentive package apart from this SDP project to facilitate this kind of investment, I think that will be a very good opportunity. At the same time, since we are focusing on this middle income category in this aspect, rather than addressing to the high-end apartment complex where there is lot of opportunities for continuing the services for general services, our experience is when consider this type of investment projects, there should be some sort of mechanism to continue the common facilities even after the there is a concessional agreement terminated. Even after that, there should be some sort of mechanism to continue the general maintenance activities. So there should be some sort of social responsibility in terms of the investor as well as the general public as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, environmental responsibility, because now we see a lot of high-rise apartments are coming up around Kotte, Rajagiri, that area. And Diyawanna Lake, which used to be very clear water, is turning into Bere today because those socially responsible policies are not implemented. So if you can give some kind of credit for carbon credit type of thing, because
if I can add one more thing, that this kind of incentive packages are available in countries like Malaysia, Thailand, where they give incentives, maybe tax holidays for investments in greenhousing and maybe energy efficiency aspects. So targeting those things, they are giving incentives. So if we can apply that sort of thing in Sri Lanka also, that will be an added advantage.
So going forward, that is actually a prime consideration, how we don't engage in environmental degradation, in developing urban environments, and also what incentives that we can give in addition to what we're not giving back tax holidays now. Yes. We level the playing field on that. So there are very good policies that are being thought of going forward. So we hope that these are going to work in the future. So coming to Romali, from a construction sector perspective, how do you see the demand for affordable housing? Do you see technology like green building practices shaping affordability and social housing in Sri Lanka?
So I think there's definitely demand for affordable housing. With regards to green buildings, in my very limited experience, I can't say at the stage of construction that it makes anything affordable. Maybe perhaps after once someone moves in, perhaps their living costs might reduce as a result of that, but I can't say at where we are as experts, we can say that that reduces affordability. I've spoken to some architects about this, and they're actually the best persons to answer this question, and I'm sad to say most of them say that green building certifications are merely box ticking. It's merely box ticking. So it's just a policy we pushed out without really thinking whether there's impact on the living affordability aspect afterwards. Why I say that affordable housing is in demand is because right now the private sector is catering to the middle class and the upper middle class. I spoke to a sales team in condominiums recently, and I asked him, what is the benchmark for your middle income? And he flat out said 700,000 rupees a month. And I was like, well, if that's the middle class, then I'm really poor. Like, who has that kind of money? And I think in this aspect, we forget one fundamental aspect about our society. Middle class is not just in Sri Lanka. I can't speak for other countries. Middle class is just not your income. Middle class in Sri Lanka is a status. And why we miss out if we only focus on affordability is because we miss out the civil servants who's obviously not making 700,000 bucks a month. They're missing out on school teachers who's also not making 700,000 bucks a month. So we've entirely let that strata of our middle class go. So we've stopped catering to them. So yes, affordable housing is a big issue. Why did this happen? Up until 1970, 1980, quite a lot of the housing was supplied to the middle class, social status middle class, through the government sector. Manning Town, Torrington, who here has heard their parent go on and on and on about bumper flats? Because I have, right? I've been there, it's not that great, okay? But they still love talking about it. Because it was provided by the government, it was entirely livable, there are bungalow styles in the sky, and it's catered to our living standard. So as, I think, as Priyanka mentioned, you have to bring in the government to this to an extent. Because soon as you talk about affordable housing for the lower middle income, this profit and loss situation goes into a disarray. At the moment, the government has 8 affordable income housing projects suspended. Why? Because as Priyanka said, they ran out of money. So what can we do now to pivot? This is already a sunk cost. The land has been bought, the construction has begun. Why are they stuck? They're stuck not because of a money issue. They're stuck because, yes, they do have the money to put into it, but they don't have a marketing team to sell the units
so that they can bring in revenue. So that's actually the root cause, not the fact that the government doesn't have money for socially affordable housing. You've seen the fabulous marketing teams that are presented here. The government does not have that talent. So that's where the PPP model has to come in. That's where we have to make it economical for the government. So we also have to help them solve their problems. 100% I guarantee you, if you have housing in the 35 million range, people will buy it. People will buy it. So we need to focus on more of that.
Thank you very much. Actually, that opens the final question, which is to all the panelists. That is, how can the banking sector, because we are talking about inclusive financing, right? Be incentivized to support people-centric housing that embodies affordability, sustainability, and synergy with other sectors rather than speculative lending. So this is where the affordability comes, because as you say, the affordability comes from banks have money. I hope they don't lose at the rate that has happened recently, but they are the ones with the money, right? So they have to lend wisely and inclusively with responsibility. The client protection principles have to be observed. So without over-indebting the middle class and the affordable housing category, how do you think the banks can be incentivized? First, to Riza.
I'm going to actually ask Romali to answer this because clearly she's done the most research and is the most prepared, but I will take a stab at it after her.
I'm using Perplexity.
Excellent panel, which is very good at understanding of each
So
other.
again, I'm also a little bit confused as Reza is about the banking sector, because when you're asking about the banking sector, you're looking at cash flow and affordable financing, right? So these are the only things that they're going to provide. But the fact that Sri Lankans can't access banks, then a strata of Sri Lankans can't access banks to buy mortgages for their homes is not the root cause. It's symptomatic. It's symptomatic because, again, the banks use collateral to make sure that collateral and income to make sure that you can pay off a loan, which again comes back to density and supply. The prices are just too expensive, salaries are just too low, and banks don't have collateral. Some of the really good examples is what Reza mentioned earlier, using the ETF system, and that Singapore has done, and we are also doing it. But at the moment, I don't think the banks can help us with this problem. That's my honest solution. You can look at some alternative options like development banks, National Housing Development Bank, giving you longer term tenure, lower financing costs to sort of help with this problem. But I think what would really, really, really help is, again, a system. So as Reza said, construction sector overall extremely anti-competitive. Really ginormous anti-competitive behavior is going on. It's not feasible, it's not sustainable. Sri Lanka does not have an anti-competition law. The second aspect is that we have a failed regulator in construction. You will be surprised as to how many developers, I'm not talking about the big brand names here, are actually building high-rises without a licensed contractor. Secondly, you have an issue with this entire approval process, which has now doubled in time. We don't have the infrastructure, and we are really, really struggling with making housing affordable as a combination of all of these things. So if you fix this, there is a market. If there is a market, I will guarantee you, banks will go there.
Yes. If the asset quality is there, the banks will lend, and
Yes.
also affordability. Sometimes I would pose this question, can there be an incentive from the government to subsidize or give something?
Okay, if I add one more thing.
Yes, sure.
You can't ask the developers and the architects to solve a social problem with design. You can't do that.
Yes.
So you have
this
to
is
shift the
where the
perspective.
commitment of the government, like in Singapore, what they did, though we say it's expensive, not for the Singaporeans who are earning there. The EPF, ETF there is much bigger. And our problem is the wages are very low. So therefore the banks have to go that extra mile with some subsidy or grants or whatever in order to bridge the gap. And there are countries that have done it. Even the UK has a grant system for affordable housing, right? So those things.
Even EU has that sort of mechanism where there's EU regional funding funds that aspect.
So lots need to be done. So I think as we come to the end, since I represent the RIU as well, let me sum up. If we ask the question, Is Sri Lanka positioned to attract foreign real estate investment? What would you say? Yes? No? Okay, let's say it still is selective, high-risk market rather than a broad institutional magnet. We still don't have, we are still an emerging market. We are still not a hub like Singapore or Vietnam. We saw Roshan's graphics, how the infrastructure has developed in Singapore and, not Singapore, you put it on Vietnam, right? Vietnam, how the infrastructure is driving the markets. And here the panel discussed that infrastructure is not satisfactory. It's not expanding at the rate that the demand should. And it's not happening. So where Sri Lanka stands right now is the emerging, recovering tier in Asia behind established hubs like Singapore and fast reformers like Vietnam. But ahead of some frontier markets due to our location and human capital. Our location is everything, right? When you talk about real estate, what is that? Location, location, location. So we are located excellently, but unfortunately, because the government policies that have now, Port City is a good example. It's been there. But then earlier we thought that you had to get a visa to get into the Port City. Then we thought it's going to be a financial hub and no people are going to be living. Even the Port City, the thing that we saw today, now there are people who are going to live. 270,000 people are going to be living in the Port City. Now that was not even given to us. I don't think it's even marketed. People still don't think that there are going to be 207. Now when we were marketing Hulumale, we said that there's going to be 25,000 people living in Hulumale. It exceeded that, but you know, then they went to the second stage. You see, you got to give targets. You got to make people aware, right? Our awareness of the Port City, the value has not been really marketed properly to even in Sri Lanka, let alone the world. So the Port City stabilization after Sri Lankan economic crisis has reopened investor interest, especially in large, well-structured projects, strategic projects creating entry points. Port City Colombo, a purpose-built zone with investor-friendly regulations aimed at international capital, which signals confidence from global developers in hospitality and mixed-use real estate. So foreign investors often enter through such flagship developments. So what are we ending this conference? What is the biggest takeaway from this conference? Hope. We hope that this Port City becomes the flagship of properly regulated infrastructure and investment opportunities, tourism, mixed development, things going to happen here, which can be emulated in other parts of urban development. And it's not just high-rises in the Port City. There are bungalows, there are villas, so many things that have been put in place in the new plan. So this all happened within the last 12 months. So everybody who's shouting, saying nothing is happening in Sri Lanka, we are not attracting. Tourism has increased, all the indicators are up, right? But still we are saying people are miserable. Yes, for a time it will be, because geopolitics are what it is. You know, we are going through a hard time. So in particular, the hard work that RIU has put in to bring these kind of conferences together is laudable. In fact, I would fail in my duty if I don't thank the brain behind all of this is the leader of RIU, Mr. Roshan Madawela, and in particular the hard work from Niflan, Malin, Haushin, Vidun, and Nimesha made this possible. And actually, you have to give a big round of applause to RIU team, the RIU team. Thank you very much, and thank you, the panelists. You have been wonderful, great insights you shared. Going forward, remember this is a 10-year plan, right? So in that 10-year plan, some of the ideas that you shared are actually sterling, golden, right? Thank you, the audience, for remaining here and absorbing all of this. And it has been a great conference actually for Sri Lanka real estate market, because we know where we stand today. We have hope that we are going to succeed. Okay, so on that note, let me finish. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Once again, a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, and we request them to remain for a moment. And we invite Mr. Roshan to please do the honors of presenting the tokens of appreciation. Thank you very much. to our moderator, Dr. Anil Priyankara Badavitana, Senior Consultant, RIUNIT. Panelists, thank you very much, Mr. Roshan Madawela, CEO and founder of RIUNIT. And once again, we thank each of you for being here, and especially if you had not noticed, we had a virtual audience who were joining from across the globe, and we thank them as well. So as we come to the closure of the formal proceedings, we wish to mention that this will be an ongoing initiative, as it is a 10-year-long plan, a long-term journey, and it's the responsibility of the entire industry to participate, to bring all brilliant minds and the expertise together, not to compete, but to collaborate. And we look forward to seeing you in the future sessions. We must be thankful once again to RIUNIT for making the initiative to build a dialogue. Thank you very much to each of you who are here in the audience and those who joined us virtually from across the globe for your valuable and active participation. And we invite you to stay tuned for the upcoming sessions, and we invite you to join for cocktails and dinner and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much and all the very best.
along the Indian Ocean, where yachts meet the horizon. An exclusive waterfront address rises at Port City, Colombo. Direct marina views, private yacht access, an infinity pool above sea and skyline. Timeless, distinguished, enduring. Seeing is believing.
A landmark collaboration by Prime Group and Melwa.
IBOI Sri Lanka, introducing the Elizabeth by Prime Group, a rare dress in the heart of Colombo 7. Victorian in design, Sri Lankan in soul. Her presence does not interrupt Colombo 7, it completes it. The Elizabeth, at home in Colombo 7. Become a part of a legacy. Embrace a heritage that endures.
Welcome to Momvi, Talakotua Gardens, in the residential haven of Colombo 5. Here, the city softens, life finds its balance. And even in the middle of a busy life, we find pockets of stillness, nature, safety, space, all woven into every day. Featuring Sri Lanka's first ever floating sky restaurant and cantilevered viewing deck. With over 40,000 square feet of curated recreation spread across 3 floors just for us. Turn your dream into an address. Call us on +94 702 777 777. Expect 7 to 8% rental yields with attractive no down payment options. A project by Prime Residencies, a member of Prime Group.
There are places you stay, and then there are places that change the way you live. Where every day begins by the ocean, where every evening ends with the city at your feet. Elegance at your doorstep, adventure beneath your home, thrill, precision, the freedom to choose every single day. And when the sun goes down, Colombo comes alive in front of you. This is more than luxury, more than convenience. It's a new way of living in Colombo. The next big chapter of the city begins here. Bay 1, an opportunity on its way. Be ready for the life you've been dreaming of.
At Thunmala Handia, something extraordinary rises. Sri Lanka's first cantilevered sky pool, dining in the clouds, a 5-star floating restaurant, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom apartments. Come experience it for yourself. Pentara Residencies, Thunmula Handia, the address in Colombo.
Sri Lanka's first luxury beach resort apartment and villas, consisting of 3 towers, the 321 resort-style apartments and 91 villas. Have a taste of an endless experience with Ocean Beach Resort Apartments and Villas, Wadua. Experience ocean-front luxury resort living.
Welcome to Bayfront Marina Resort Apartments and Villas, first tourist resort apartment complex in Sri Lanka. With the highest ROI and rental income, it's the perfect investment. Just 8 minutes to the airport, 8 minutes to the highway interchange, and only 500 meters to Negombo City. In addition, you'll find supermarkets, hospitals, and hotels just minutes away, ensuring that you have everything you need. Bayfront Marina Resort Apartments and Villas.
Sri Lanka, a canvas of contrast, where ancient whispers converge with the visions of tomorrow. Sri Lanka's strategic location fortifies its legacy as a pivotal hub of connectivity, with the bustling port of Colombo ranked first in South Asia, serving as a testament to a nation's logistical prowess. This provides preferential market access from Europe to Asia, cementing Sri Lanka's role as a key player in global commerce. Colombo's skyline, bridging eras, ushers in an age of innovation, symbolizing a transition to a dynamic future. Introducing Port City Colombo, a world-class master-planned city development built as an international multi-services special economic zone, financial center and business hub. Port City Colombo, a financially ring-fenced city, is the center of commerce and innovation, where the Colombo Port City Economic Commission serves as a single-window investment facilitator, streamlining investment processes. An international regulatory framework ensures compliance with the highest global standards, offering the freedom to transact without foreign exchange controls, minimizing risk and hedging costs. The city includes a robust investment protection, fostering confidence. Green Channel visas, valid for up to 10 years for investors, their spouses and children, facilitate easy entry, fostering a diverse and innovative community. Port City Colombo is ready for vertical development, with its complete infrastructure, including strategically placed substations and a comprehensive utility network, ensuring reliable power and essential services across the entire city. Its groundwork supports residential and commercial projects, offering a solid base for high-rise and mixed-use buildings and complexes. Efficient administrative services and an international commercial dispute resolution center ensure swift, fair business resolutions. Employees in Port City Colombo benefit from remuneration in foreign currency. Businesses of strategic importance enjoy unmatched incentives, where primary BSIs can unlock an unparalleled incentive package of up to 23 years, linked to the scale of investment and employment generated, featuring no corporate income tax or border tariffs, whilst secondary BSIs benefit from a competitive 7.5% concessionary corporate income tax rate for 4 years, also free from border tariffs. Port City Colombo redefines urban living with its master planned cityscape designed for comfort and luxury. Exclusive villas, a yacht marina, the Colombo International Financial Center, an integrated resort and a convention and exhibition center, and a pioneering duty-free retail offering complement luxurious apartments and green spaces, offering a blend of sophistication and peaceful tranquility. The city includes top-tier education and healthcare alongside the entertainment. ESG principles are central to this special economic zone, ensuring a legacy of environmental and social responsibility. Port City Colombo is sculpting a landmark of regional significance and global appeal. It's where ambition and opportunity converge to forge a realm of infinite economic potential, heralding a new era with a singular vision. Invest in Port City Colombo.